What's up? Welcome back to my channel, or for the first time if you're new, I'm Sylvan, and today I'm going to be reacting to Lord of Mysteries, episodes 7 and 8. I am excited to get back into this. Last episode was really interesting. Between the last two episodes, we were introduced to two very different but definitely interesting characters, being Trissy and Azek, and I'm curious to see as we move forward closer to Doomsday here, how much of these two characters we will be seeing going forward. But I'm gonna not delay it all here. Feel free to like and subscribe if you enjoy the video, leave a comment on your thoughts, consider becoming a channel member if you want to support me just that little bit extra, and let's get into this. Yeah, I'm very curious to see how this is going to go, because realistically, we very easily could end up just continuing on a different line of story than what is connected to Trissy and Azek. Because currently, those two are very disconnected pieces, so it could be nothing related to either of them, or it could be related to one of them, or it could be related to both of them. There's a lot of ways this could go. And I honestly don't know. We also obviously have stuff with Klein potentially being able to go to sequence 8 with Clown. We don't know what the status of his progression towards that necessarily is. Just that he's sort of working towards it. And presumably we're going to get some wild lore as we tend to here. But who knows? This show has done a lot of different things in the 6 episodes I've seen already, so we could have honestly anything thrown at us, and I would not be too surprised. Okay. So we're back to Azek immediately. Cool. Ah. Coincidences. Oh. Okay, so tying back to there, I see. And the invisible feathers! Those have been everywhere. I think I forgot to mention it last time, but that was absolutely there. Oh, are we going to get some more info on this handoff? Ah, okay. So it went from their hands to them. Okay. Interesting. Okay. I'm gonna... Huh. August 20th. All right, we're moving ahead in time a little. Blackthorn Security Company, of course. But yeah, so we're, what, just under a week ahead of the whole Trissy situation? Yeah, we're definitely slowing down then. Okay, what's the occasion? Oh, okay. To who? Damn. Ooh, Seekatron, okay. Another Midnight Poet. Yeah, okay. It seems to be just in the blood of Midnight Poets to be dramatic. God. Damn. A Midnight Poet who can't write. This is cute. Seeing the Nighthawks actually just relax a little bit. Westboro and Golden Indus, okay. Alright. Going to the cemetery, fun. Day off? Yep. Everyone has a unique style. Hence his forgetfulness. Huh. Okay. Guarding the Chanis Gate. Huh. Unless it opens from inside? Yeah. 10,000 words, damn. That's insane. I mean, in this line of work, fair, but need to be thorough with things. I want to know more about this Chanis Gate. Gotta start researching things in the meantime, or? Hmm. Elliot's kidnapping. The Ray Beaver going berserk incident. Okay. Tying together all of these threads. A knock from inside the Chanis Gate. Don't open it, he said. But damn, that's ominous. And it opens from the inside. Goddamn, the exact like unique scenario that was mentioned probably won't happen is happening immediately. Goddamn. What is coming out? Can't be anything good necessarily, given that they use it to like protect and contain the sealed artifacts. Oh, that's a big hand. That's a person. Well, actually, it looks like a doll. That's a doll. Oh. It's not the same doll from a few episodes ago, but it's similar looking. Oh, they hadn't even left. Yeah, well, oh wait, they were staying here. Yeah. Huh. Ooh. Offered him a note. Misfortune cloth puppet. Okay. All right. First time guarding the Chanis Gate, and he is immediately doomed for death. Great. That's just old Neil, isn't it? That's not a great way to be walking, but is he just sleep deprived, or? Yeah. Huh. God damn it. God. Okay, a little levity with, the doomed fate. Okay, okay. Hopefully everything's fine. Yeah. Oh. Ah. The notebook? Yeah, the notebook. Another doll tied to the Antigonus family. Curious. So its similarity to the other doll is not a shock. Hmm. Ooh, I'm liking these cuts. All right. We're back to the Tarot Club in the Divine Realm. Well, maybe the Tarot Club, maybe just in the Divine Realm. Yeah, Tarot Club. What were they writing? Damn. The sheer amount of aura this guy gives off. Ah. God, they really are treating him like a god. Mr. Zaratul. Zaratul family. Okay, getting a lot of names. Mr. Z, I imagine. Sequence 9 Seer. Okay. Steal a dangerous artifact. Oh, boy. Huh. Interesting. That's almost certainly Mr. Z. Hmm. Okay. Yes, very good question. Nice. Literally just got the info. Listener from the Aurora Order. Okay. The true creator once again. Yep. Okay. The fallen creator. Is he just making that shit up, or? Yeah. Ah, yes. Okay. Back to the third epoch. Okay. Ooh, some history. The Blood Emperor. Oh. Whoa, okay. First glimpse of what perhaps the Evernight goddess looks like, but also, wow, okay. Destroyed the Antigonus family. Means the Nighthawks have a very interesting opposition to them. Huh. Yeah, he's really using the Tarot Club to his advantage. Huh. Why? Yeah. Ah. Okay. Coincidences. Yep. Gotta love using your literal mind palace to figure this shit out. Yeah. Okay, yeah. Happened to discover a coincidence. Oh. Okay. Getting back to the kidnapping, that was always a question. It was a sort of arbitrary moment. Something trying to obscure this. Okay. Oh, is that the notebook? To give him a lead to it. Oh. That's okay, yeah, that would put some things in place, but who and why did they want him to find it? Yeah, I guess he could have fled. Huh. I'm loving the build of the music here. All streets we've touched on before. It might be something more than that. It has? Okay, that's not good. Okay. Something more than acting. Ha! Alright, redirecting his priority. Needs to become more powerful to be able to do it, is the idea. Okay. Ooh. Concerning. Ugh. The clown's corpse, okay. Welch and Vincent. Ah. Those, yeah. I feel like I've seen that guy before, but I don't know where. Sirius Arapis. Or Arapis. There's a lot of stuff here, okay. This is going to be a big note-taking episode. Back to the Divination Club, yep. Okay, he's beginning to build a reputation. Oh. Lenevis. Okay, something with Hornacus. A suspect in something related. 10,000 pounds, Jesus. He literally read the newspaper in your hand. What? Huh. Okay, much different situation than I thought. Jesus Christ. Or is there something more going on? He was about to do his vision, but she ran off. Damn, okay. Damn. How is that gonna play into everything? Okay. Oh. Oh, yeah, I guess they wouldn't know the details. Oh boy. Yeah, wow, okay. Oh, they're tying a lot of characters together here. Something about ruins. Yeah. Louisville Library. Okay, what's going on here? Don't believe this was in any of the other episodes, but there's the guy. Ooh. Huh. Lavenis. Okay. Yeah. True. Late May. July 14th onwards. Okay. Huh. Yeah. Sirius Serapis. Okay. That again. And he's right there, god damn it. Huh. Huh. And there he is. Too coincidental indeed. Who is pulling the strings? I don't think you're gonna have the chance. He's running for it. Yeah, okay. On the Jesus, desperate to get away, huh? I mean, that's realistic of what it would mean to jump through a window. But for a seer, it's pretty easy for him to follow that. Control being lost. Oh, Jesus. Oh, okay, yeah, he's lost control. How you gonna get out? What? What? Yeah, really didn't have any control. Damn, okay. No, that's too much of a coincidence. A secret suppliant, okay. Lines up for the secret order. Yeah, he's really digging for that info. But yeah, this is too much of a coincidence. 3 candles. Clown potion recipe, okay. Ah, the fallen creator, the hanged giant, whatever you want to call him. Yeah. Ooh, he witnesses it again? Well, him the first time. Captain, okay. Gun's already here. Okay. Hmm. Yes, they do. Okay. Damn. Huh. A letter? Mr. Z again. Oh yeah, the Aurora Order is that group. Sorry, my bad. Yeah, Secret Suppliant is for Aurora Order. Secret Order is other shit. Yeah, they were struggling to discover stuff about it. Seer, Apprentice, and Clown. So the notebook did give them the details for Clown. Fair. Secret Treasure of Resurgence. Oh, yeah. It all comes back to the Hornakus mountain range. Nation of Evernight ruins. Yep, everything lines up. Prep for Doomsday, so they're learning about Doomsday, okay. Everything's tying together. So, okay. Alright. Yeah, and that was serious, of course. That's what I was thinking. Huh. Everything is coming together. Huh. Yep, it would seem like it. And I mean, also, makes sense. Yeah, Flagrea is the question here. But makes sense that Seer was Secret Order given the clown and all. True. They share a bond. That's what everything's been pointing to. Yeah. Was that not a coincidence? Yeah. Oh. Huh. Someone wants a powerful seer in the world. Yeah, wow, okay. Real reason for suicide, okay. Going all the way back to the beginning. Didn't expect this episode to be so cohesively tying things together. I love this. Yeah. Oh, was that what he needed? That realization was the last step in digesting the potion? That's what it feels like to me. Yep. Hell yeah. Realizing divination can't do everything. Interesting. So it leads to a power greater than divination, I imagine? Ooh, this is. Ooh, I love the music. What is this power? What has he unlocked? It's like he can see fucking everything in the city. Ooh. Ooh, the splash of red there. Oh, and something doesn't want him going there. Interesting. Well, you know that's where to go next then. A place with 2 smokestacks, okay. Red ones, exactly. Really interesting to see that spike in power almost when he fully digests the potion. One month prior. Tenno Egger's skull. Everything's connected, holy shit. Placed beside another worshipper of the Hanged Giant. Swindler. Okay. Psychiatrist. A spectator, so we know the direction that Audrey's going in. Degenerate nature of... Ooh, my god! So using Tenno Egger's skull in a self-sacrificial ritual. What was this to accomplish? Oh! To enact Doomsday. This is the woman from episode 1 giving birth to the monster. Holy shit. Oh, and that... Okay. And that woman who was in the divination club earlier, who was pregnant because of Levenus, that has to be her. Holy shit. The way everything just clicks together at the end there. Wow. Ooh. Everything has slotted into place. Holy shit. There's still questions. Why is someone or something manipulating events so that Klein, or potentially more accurately, Joe, becomes a powerful seer? Or at the very least, that's a consequence or, like, coincidental, like, occurrence to the greater purpose. Okay. My thoughts are either that Mr. Z needs for some reason, needs another powerful seer in the world, seeing as they were around to influence Roselle into wishing he had become a seer, which, intentionally or otherwise, leads to the diary finding its way to Joe, well, to Klein, and then Joe reading it, like, parts of it, and... Oh, wow, okay. There's a lot here. Oh, a little bit more? That's a lot of smokestacks. It's gonna be hard to find the exact one. Of course, the double red smokestacks helps. Shannis Gate again. It's calling to him, okay. It all comes back to the ruins of Evernight. Yeah, he hasn't escaped the, yeah. Ooh. Forgot that scene? Vertical pupil of concealed symbols. Oh. Alright, so that... that episode, wow, okay. There was a lot there. I've already gone through and taken notes, and funnily enough, a lot of it was actually just adjusting things in my notes now that we've gotten some answers to things, and a lot of things have connected together. But that doesn't mean we have no questions to ask. There's definitely stuff that is unknown and just a lot to figure out. So, to start off, I think it makes sense to start with the elephant in the room, which is something is organizing events. Something or someone has been manipulating things to lead to some intended outcome in the future. In the short term, it appears what they are trying to do is make Klein a particularly powerful seer, lead him down a path where he is able to successfully develop himself and his powers so that he can become powerful enough for some intended purpose. And that purpose is not at all clear. It's hard to say at this point, especially when we don't even know who is doing this or what, potentially. But what we do know is that there have been a lot of coincidences that have led Klein to developing as he has. And this is where things get a little complicated, but I'll try to establish them as straightforward as possible. From the earliest point in time, we have Mr. Zaratul, who may be the person orchestrating all of this. Who knows? To touch on Mr. Zaratul for a moment, in the reaction, I said he's probably Mr. Z, but having thought about it a bit while taking my notes, I'm realizing that there is a strong likelihood that he actually isn't, and that is because, as has been established, the Secret Order and Aurora Order are different organizations, and Mr. Zaratul was described as being a leader of the Secret Order, not the Aurora Order. Of course, we're talking a few hundred years back is the context of this information, because this is coming from Rozel's diary, but regardless, we have it set up that Zaratul is connected to the Secret Order, where Mr. Z, of course, is one of the oracles of the Aurora Order. It's possible that over the last few hundred years, Zaratul went from leading the Secret Order to becoming an oracle of the Aurora Order, but we don't really have much precedent for that. So for now, I'm not going to assume they're the same person. I simply did at first because, I mean, Mr. Zaratul, Mr. Z, pretty straightforward link there, but I don't think it's as valid as it immediately seems. But regardless of who Mr. Zaratul is and what his exact intentions are and if he's still around or not, Mr. Zaratul was of the seer pathway and effectively influenced Rozel into wishing he had picked the seer pathway, which then indirectly leads to Klein wanting to pick Seer when he reads that bit of the diary. And there's another aspect to Mr. Zaratul's influence, but I'll get to that in a moment, because I feel like the diary element and the influencing of Rozel is where the most interesting element of this grander machination comes in. Because if we are to assume that this is all one grand manipulation going on, we have to ask, how far does it go? Is it that Mr. Zaratul was separate from this and now someone or something else is just using how events led to further manipulate things? Was Mr. Zaratul part of this manipulation? And regardless, how much does the person manipulating this understand about what they're doing? And at the core of all of these questions, to me, is the key detail of the only reason Rozel's diary was able to influence Klein was because Klein, or rather Zhou, translocated into this world and could therefore read the diary. Which, with that in mind, knowing that for the diary to influence Klein in any way, regardless of how deep this manipulation goes, the key detail of Klein needing to be someone who can read the same language that Rozel wrote his diary in means that whoever is manipulating things is aware that that is a language known by basically no one. Meaning that regardless of how deep this whole manipulation goes, if we can assume that at the very least Klein's actions and direction has been manipulated, regardless of anything else, whoever is doing this would have to be aware that prior to Zhou transmigrating into this world, Klein would not have been able to understand the diary. Meaning that either the person in the background manipulating events is either much less informed than they might seem and was just sort of throwing shit at the wall until someone figured out how to understand the diary and it happened to be in the right position for them to be influenced to become a seer. But if we're to believe that this person behind the scenes or thing behind the scenes is as capable as they seem, if not more so, they would have to be aware that no one in this world, or at least very few, we don't necessarily know how many people have translocated into this world before, but they would have to know that next to no one in this world could understand that diary, let alone decode it? Do they just know that Roselle had some knowledge beyond this world and wrote his diary in a foreign language beyond this world, and therefore needed to find a way to draw that knowledge into someone else? Or are they fully aware, yes, there's this other world, yes, we can have people transmigrate from there to here, and yes, we can manipulate events so that we can cause that to happen? There's no real way to know, but these are important questions to ask when we think of what exactly the figure behind the scenes is capable of. And speaking of what they're capable of, it definitely seems like whatever this figure is trying to obscure things from Klein's vision, keep him on a specific path, keep him from peeling back the curtain too far. But through all of this, despite this, thanks to Klein fully digesting his potion, which we'll touch on in a little bit, he successfully was able to get a clue at what he believes is towards what is behind all this. Whether that be the actual person or thing themselves that is manipulating things, or just the next step in figuring that kind of thing out. And it's here that I ask another question. Are we sure that he actually was able to break through, at least to an extent, this filter that has been put onto his divination so that he could actually get this clue of the 2 red smokestacks? Because I'm not so confident when I think about it. The more I think about what has been done to manipulate events, how seemingly capable the figure behind everything is, do we really think they would be able to hold him back for so long while trying to make him more powerful in the same process, and keep him from, in his sort of divination, enter this space with the 2 red smokestacks, but not stop him from witnessing it in the first place? Of course, this could just be a blunder on the part of the manipulator. They could have potentially not expected him to gain his power so quickly, or perhaps there was a sort of awkward growth period in adjusting how much they need to counteract his ability to learn things. That's possible. It's entirely possible that whatever the person behind this has begun to get out of their depth or miscalculated in some way. And I feel like that is more likely if the manipulator is a shorter term threat, if they tie into this stuff of the hidden treasure and stuff, which realistically will probably resolve in this season, but who knows? We'll see where it goes. Doomsday is looming upon us. If they're just a shorter term villain like that, then I think probably, yes, they are getting in over their head. Yes, they are underestimating Klein. And yes, Klein is going to figure out what's going on and stop it or whatever. But if we think this is a grander question and grander mystery, which it very strongly has the potential for, especially if it ties into the reason he entered this world in the first place, then I find it very strange that there would be this kind of mistake to give him a clue like this, unless it was intentional. If this figure is truly a greatly powerful being who can manipulate events, is aware of far more than anyone else, and is seeking to make Klein as powerful as possible, I imagine that what this clue with the red smokestacks is leading to is not uncovering the person or thing behind this mystery, but rather just another step in leading Klein towards where they want him to be. Regardless of the capabilities of this mysterious figure, this manipulator, we can begin to piece together potentially what they are after, at least in the short term. And that is the hidden treasure in the Hornakis mountain range in the Nation of Evernight ruins. Of course, we must always ask the question again, is this because this mysterious manipulator wants that treasure for themselves? Or is it because that will lead Klein towards the next step in whatever the grander plan is? Once again, we have no way of knowing that right now, but depending on who it is manipulating things, we can guess. If it is Zaratul who is doing this, I think it is far more likely that they themselves want that treasure, because we know that the Secret Order is one that seeks out treasures and like relics and artifacts. And more specifically, we know that Zaratul wanted to convince Roselle to steal an Antagonist-related artifact. Therefore, it is safe to assume that unless Zaratul is playing very carefully and all of that making Roselle want to steal it was just a extra layer of deception, it is safe to assume, I think, that Zaratul and the Secret Order if they are the ones manipulating things, they want whatever is at the peak in those ruins. Which does bring up some curious questions, which I'll get to in a moment, but for now let's consider our other options. If it isn't Zaratul and the Secret Order who is manipulating things, and is instead a different group, or individual, though we can't answer who it is because we have no real context or information, it is much more possible in that case that this is just another step in whatever the grander manipulation is. And though we can't figure out who specifically is doing this, I would like to posit a theory. I'm not confident in this theory, but it occurred to me, and I feel like, though there isn't necessarily evidence for it right now, there's some intrigue to it, and that is, what if this figure manipulating events is not truly malicious? Perhaps they still could be, but follow me here. What if, instead of being a malicious figure who is trying to manipulate Klein to their greater gain, what if somehow, because we aren't fully aware of how their powers work, what if this is actually the influence of the Evernight goddess? We aren't aware how much foreknowledge the gods have. We aren't aware how they enact their power directly on the world, but we know that they are real and they are powerful. And in some sense, that might seem like a wild out of left field idea, but let's consider what we know about the Evernight goddess and her connection to the general scenario going on right now. The Evernight goddess is the goddess that the Nighthawks worship. So, presumably, the Nighthawks' intentions are at least somewhat in line with her intentions. What else do we know? Everything that has been happening so far has been tied to the Antigonus family, or at the very least their legacy. And who destroyed the Antigonus family? The Evernight goddess. With just that core, though I could tie a few more threads, like the details of seemingly the thing connected to the Antigonus family, like hidden treasure, is supposedly in the Hornakis mountain range in the Nation of Evernight ruins, which then is potentially another tie, because presumably the Nation of Evernight was tied to the Evernight goddess. But at its core, the fact that the Nighthawks are, effectively speaking as we understand it, an organization that pushes forward the wishes of their god, or at the very least that can be assumed to a degree. And the Evernight goddess, to whatever true degree, is responsible for the downfall of this family. And currently, there are groups attempting to seek out and gather those hidden treasures of that family, these artifacts that are quite dangerous. With all that in mind, is it not impossible to think that the Evernight goddess is influencing events, is manipulating things, so that there is a person who is there at the right time, at the right place, with the right knowledge and power to stop whatever would occur if these artifacts are unleashed, or, slightly different angle, is there to properly use those artifacts once they are found. Like I said, I'm not 100% on this theory, I'm not locked in on believing it, but I do think there is enough interesting validity to it that I'm not going to just forego it as an idea. I'm going to keep it in the back of my mind and look for potential further clues towards that being the case. With that theory out of the way, I'm going to pull things back a little bit from the pure speculation of who is manipulating things, what do they want, why are they doing this, how much do they know, that kind of thing. Let's draw back to a few key details, and that is, what are the players we know are involved in events currently? Outside of this Grand Manipulator, who hypothetically could be one of the people involved in these various pieces, we know that the Secret Order, the Aurora Order, and of course our group, the Nighthawks, are all individually working against each other / in tandem to unfurl this mystery. The most obvious of these is the Aurora Order. They have been the ones that we've seen the most of these secret orders, and they clearly were looking into the Hornakis mountain range and attempting to discover anything about this hidden treasure in the mountains. At the same time, though, whether it is connected or not, the Aurora Order is preparing for Doomsday, meaning that they are seemingly the ones who are responsible for all of that. They are preparing this Doomsday event, as is said by Sirius in his letter, they're preparing to offer up Tingan City as effectively a sacrifice for the Hanged Giant, the True Creator, the Fallen Creator, whatever you want to call him. And currently spearheading that group, being the effective face of it for us currently, as far as I can tell at least, is Lenevis. Though he is not explicitly stated to be part of the Aurora Order, and therefore could easily be part of the Secret Order or some other organization, he was there for the ritual involving Tenno Egger's skull to place whatever the monster or whatever that is going to incite Doomsday into Magose, or Magose, I don't know how to say the name. He was there for that, and she in that ritual was wearing a pendant of the True Creator, and there was a lot of implications of the True Creator there. Of course, we know that multiple organizations worship the True Creator in some form, so it is possible that they are not the Aurora Order, but the fact that in the first episode we have a day labeled Doomsday that is shown as a pregnant woman giving birth / transforming into some kind of abomination that then seemingly results in a explosion or something like that, and then we have Lenevis being clearly directly tied to the preparation for that event. And then we have someone of the Aurora Order saying, we are now preparing for Doomsday, in the context of, like, trying to cause it, not in the sense of trying to survive it. All things point to Lenevis being part of the Aurora Order currently. So all that's just to say that I'm assuming that Lenevis, until proven otherwise, is part of the Aurora Order, and is directly involved in both the preparation for Doomsday and the searching for this hidden treasure. Whether those are two separate things, or if the hidden treasure is needed for Doomsday, are legitimate questions that we don't necessarily have the answer to. If I were to guess, they are probably connected to at least some degree. But while we're talking about the Aurora Order, obviously Sirius was introduced in this episode, but I don't feel like touching on him much because he died in this episode and was clearly much more of a vessel for exposition and transfer of knowledge than really a threat. But the other person of the Aurora Order I'd like to mention is Hood Eugen, one of the people who took part in the ritual. It's possible he died in that ritual, but we did not see him collapse dead like the other members of the ritual, merely bleed from his eyes and sort of slump down a little. So between that with the classic no body, no kill type thing, and the fact that we got specifically introduced to him, and the fact that he is a Sequence 7 Beyonder, means that I feel like it is more likely that though he likely suffered greatly from the ritual, that he probably is still alive and will likely be a threat in the future. So all that's to say that we know the most about the Aurora Order. We know at least one person, potentially two, who are active and preparing for both Doomsday and to discover and attain this hidden treasure. And mixed into all of that, Magose is a very interesting piece of it all. She seems like she is a worshipper of the Hanged Giant or the True Creator, but it's unclear how aware of what she's taking part in is, and it is entirely possible that she isn't even really a worshipper, that actually it was just like they put the pendant on her as part of the ritual, but it was actually more of a manipulation and stuff to either convince her to go through with this, not being fully aware of what it entailed. There's plenty of possibilities with her, but ultimately what it comes down to is, regardless of if she is willingly taking part in all of this or not, she is effectively pregnant with the monster that will bring Doomsday, and she does not want to give up this child. Whether that is born out of knowledge of what is to come and reverence for it, or if it's born out of a naive attachment to this thing that probably is, based on what she was describing, actively manipulating her. And it's here that we have actually a lot of pieces towards what the Doomsday will look like. But there are a few curious tidbits. First off, we know that, at least in the past, the Secret Order was searching for some specific relic of the Antigonus family as well. So the Secret Order is likely going to be involved somewhere down the line here. We have much less knowledge of what they are up to and what they are capable of, though. So they're sort of just a mystery in all of this. They could be a wild card that throws everything off, or they could sit back in the background and wait for whatever opportunity they're looking for. And then, of course, we have our actual cast, who at this point is now aware of a vague doomsday that is approaching. They have less knowledge than us still, but they are aware that a doomsday is coming, and they are aware of this supposed hidden treasure, and that the Aurora Order is looking for it. Therefore, presumably going forward into the next couple episodes, we will likely see Klein and the rest of the Nighthawks investigating into that to try to stop them. Whether that leads us directly to the Nation of Evernight ruins, or if we stay in Tingan City to try to stop things as they are here, we shall see. That is sort of hard to predict, but we effectively have a lot of our pieces set up now, and it's just time to see how the dominoes will fall. We still have plenty of questions, there's still plenty of mystery going around, but we ultimately have things much more clear to us now than we ever have. And it's here that I would like to posit some possibilities. These are based more so out of just my understanding of narrative and storytelling than it is any like actual in-text evidence necessarily. I'm obviously going off of my knowledge of the show so far, but with that caveat aside, I feel like there are a few possibilities of how things go. To take a step back and look at the macro scale of things, we have since the beginning of the show been in a state of sort of ironic tragedy, knowing that we are leading up to Doomsday, and that though we don't know what the end result of Doomsday is, we know ultimately that it leads to this monster being born or summoned into this world, and Klein being there to fight it. And then some kind of explosion of light occurs that obviously is made to look like it is destroying the city, but realistically we aren't entirely sure what's happening there. And it's here that I point to the pieces we have on the board currently. The bare bone details for that to occur are already set up. We have a ritual conducted to plant some kind of monster into this woman, who then is in about a month or whatever going to give birth to it or get possessed by it, whatever is actually going on there, and unleash this apocalyptic event. As far as we know, nothing else is explicitly needed for that. But, as I said before, it is entirely possible that this hidden treasure of the Antigonus family is in some way necessary. I think it is possible that, whether directly or indirectly, the intent here is to use this almost sort of like ritual summoning and implanting of this monster and whatever the hidden treasure is to potentially call either the god, the true creator themselves, or some aspect of them, or an avatar, or a herald, or whatever you want to say. Hence the phrasing of offering up the city as a sacrifice. And if we're to go with that idea that the Antigonus relic is a key piece of that they need for the final step to make it properly happen, I think maybe it's possible that the proper Doomsday obviously requires it, and therefore, if by some sequence of events, whether it's the Nighthawk stopping the Aurora Order, or the Secret Order gets to it first, or whatever, or it secretly isn't existing there or whatever, the Aurora Order doesn't get their hands on the hidden treasure, and therefore Doomsday is not properly complete, but they still go through with an incomplete version of it, where it still has this potentially devastating effect, but may not end the world or something like that they truly want to be the case. Like I said, that is entirely wild speculation just based on like my vibes on storytelling, but I wanted to just sort of air out that idea in case it ends up being the case. But to step back from all of that and be a little bit more concrete in the text, there's been a lot going on with Klein in this episode. More specifically, in his development as a Beyonder. He, in this episode, not only learned the recipe to the clown potion more specifically, but he also fully digested his potion, which came from the fairly interesting concept of acknowledging that though divination is powerful, it is not all powerful. It cannot be relied on for everything, which I feel like there is some interesting merit to that idea. One of the acting principles that was mentioned for the seer was that of remaining humble. And so to an extent, that idea that you can't just rely on divination for everything, you can't just figure out everything through this one power, you are not all powerful at this point, is effectively what the extension is. Divination is not all powerful. you wield divination, therefore you are not all-powerful. There is a humbleness to that acknowledgement. So it makes sense within that context to be effectively the last thing you realize, to be able to continue to grow in power. You realize that your current powers are not enough, and therefore you must gain new power to actually learn everything. But tied to this is a bit of an irony, I think. Though thematically and conceptually, it's a very strong idea, at least visually and effectively speaking, what happens after he comes to this realization and fully digests his potion? It looks like his divination becomes drastically more powerful. So there's this inherent irony, as I said, to this idea that realizing I can't figure everything out with divination is the thing that lets him figure out what he was trying to figure out via divination. There's nothing inherently wrong with that, it's just a bit funny to me that the answer to not being able to divine something is to just divine harder, basically. But at the end of the day, I think narratively, thematically, conceptually, there is enough of a strong foundation there that the bit of funny irony there doesn't break it down. But beyond that, what this means is that Klein is ready for the clown potion, with the one caveat being that the clown potion has not been verified by the Holy Cathedral yet. Gotta hate that fucking red tape stopping me from just unlocking eldritch powers too quickly, goddamn. Which inevitably leads to the fact that either we are going to still have some time to wait before he becomes a Sequence 8 Beyonder, or he is going to disregard the concerns of the Church and go ahead before they verify it and conduct the creation of the potion. Of course, if he does that, he likely would be kicked out of the Nighthawks, or imprisoned potentially even, or just taken out because he effectively has gone rogue in a sense there. But that really is depending on how harsh the Nighthawks are on people who don't follow regulation. But knowing the kind of person Klein is, though he is eager to grow his power and find a way home and all of that, I don't necessarily expect him to go that wild yet. I don't expect him to necessarily just immediately go, fuck the Church, I'm doing this, I'm going to clown. I imagine that at the very least he'll give them some time. But if it takes especially long, I could see him getting desperate. But of course, at the same time, while he's waiting for the clown potion to be verified, he of course can potentially find out more knowledge about what Sequence 7 would be, that kind of thing. He can continue to build his knowledge. He still needs to figure out a lot of stuff before he can go beyond clown. But then also, at the same time, though he's eager to grow his power, the events of this episode I could see potentially leading him to be potentially a bit more hesitant about doing so, due to a few factors. One is this idea that someone or something is manipulating events, specifically surrounding Klein, and if I'm correct in that at least some part of it is making Klein more powerful as a seer, he would just be playing straight into their hand. But then at the same time, we got the sort of vague revelation that supposedly the Antigonus family had ties to the seer pathway, and it was described as an eerie and dangerous and mysterious path. So with that in mind, that is something that Klein also knows. He might be more hesitant to blindly walk down this path of power, knowing now that there is a certain danger and mystery to it, that someone or something is seemingly eager for him to walk down, while also at the same time hiding the fact that they are doing so. We can see that kind of thing in the post-credits scene where it's revealed what the doll showed on the little note it held out to him before anybody else got to the chain escape, which was a symbol of, I believe it was described as a vertical pupil with like inner symbols or something like that. I have the quote down, so it's in my notes. But whatever that symbol's importance is something that clearly someone or something wants Klein to know, but not let anyone else know that he knows. But at this point, I'm stumbling back into the speculation on the manipulator, so I'm gonna pull back from that again, and instead touch on some more concrete details again. Being that we actually have a much more concrete sense of the early timeline now, where before a lot of events were blurred and mysterious and unclear, we now have a much more clear sense of some things. First off, we have the answer of the trading of hands of the notebook immediately prior to the start of the series. The Secret Order had their hands on the notebook, however they found it. Then, Regents, for whatever reason, potentially compelled by someone or something, this manipulator maybe, which would actually be a point towards the manipulator not being part of the Secret Order, not being Zaratul, if Zaratul is simultaneously still around and part of the Secret Order rather than jumping to the Aurora Order. Regents, potentially compelled or for some grander purpose, sells the notebook to the Aurora Order, to Vincent specifically. Then we get into events that we're a bit more already aware of. Vincent and Sirius struggle to figure anything out from the notebook. They get a few different pathway potion recipes, being, I believe, Seer, Apprentice, and I think Marauder was the last one. Once again, I have it somewhere in my notes. I'm struggling to find it right now, though. But they learn that, but can't figure out anything else from the notebook. So they instead hand it off willingly to Welch, so they can potentially see what he can figure out about it and then retake it and the knowledge that he learned. That leads Welch to bringing in Naya and Klein. That leads to all three of them committing suicide, which then, however, indirectly or directly, leads to Zhou transmigrating into Klein's body, and then the events of the entire show. But then tied into that, we have the aspects of the kidnapping of Elliot, the one kid from the one episode, being intentionally done to lead Klein to the notebook, which then ties some of these events into the manipulator plot. And then on top of that, there are the other coincidences that much more likely align towards the actual manipulator controlling events. Being stuff like the fact that Ray Bieber, once gathering the power of the notebook, didn't just flee the city immediately, they stayed in the city, meaning that they could be tracked, to the Clown showing themselves to retrieve the notebook when they did, telling Klein that Clown is the next sequence on the Seer path, and just all of that. Once again, that leads into the questions relating to the manipulator. Not going to get into that again. I've rambled and speculated enough, I think, for now. But this does mean that we have so much more concrete of a timeline here now. But beyond that, I don't think I necessarily have too much more to say, because ultimately this episode really is about connecting these dots, answering these mysteries, discovering new mysteries because of it, and setting up for what the goals are into the future, which ultimately seem to be investigating the two red smokestacks, stopping Doomsday, and whether it's connected to that or not, learning more about this hidden treasure and stopping the Aurora Order from getting it. Of course, in the background, somewhere, we have both Azek and Trissy doing their own stuff. Obviously, if we learn that Tenno Egger's skull was used in the ritual to conduct the Doomsday event, Azek will absolutely be willing to join up with the Nighthawks to stop this, or at the very least Klein. Not entirely sure how necessarily the Nighthawks themselves would react to Azek. But regardless, if we learn that detail and present that info to Azek, he would absolutely help us however he can. Meanwhile, Trissy is sort of the rogue element here. She seemingly has left the city. She's part of the Demoness sect, which hasn't been involved in anything outside of the episode they were introduced into. So I feel like it might be entirely possible that Trissy and the Demoness sect are more so a early setup for potentially a future arc or plotline, rather than being a additional element to the chaotic, swirling mess of intentions and groups and plots that are already going on. But with all that said, I think that is all I really wanted to touch on for this episode. It's a lot of information, a lot to sort of process and sort of piece together, but it also is very exciting. And because of that, it's about time to get to next episode. Let's see how quickly we resolve some of these things. I'm very curious to see how this episode goes after last one, given how much we were putting to the dots together with that last one. I feel like we're pretty much moving into shit's happening territory, but I don't necessarily know how that's going to unfold and where we're going specifically next. We could easily just go to the Red Smokestacks, or cut off the Aurora Order from getting to the Hornakus Mountain Range, or go to the Hornakus Mountain Range, or we could do some mix of all of those, or something else can come up and complicate things. The Secret Order could throw their hat into the ring more directly. Trissy could come back. Asuka could show up again with some info. There's a lot of shit that could go down. And I'm just excited to see how it plays out. Last episode absolutely helped to give a much more direct sense of where things are going, though, regardless of where we go. Okay, where are we? Oh, Koi University back to Azik? That's my guess. They love their animal perspective shots. Okay. What you doing under the bridge or whatever? Yeah, well, you can't rely on just that. Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah, true. He did learn how to make those. Hmm. Oh, okay. So they're just hanging out? Huh. Yeah, I guess his bloodline, like, perception stuff didn't work either. Huh. That's... Huh. Oh? Calling in his help? Losing control. We are guardians. Huh. Curious. Oh? Are we going straight to Tarot Club? That's the same imagery we've used a couple times. Looks like it. Yep. They're liking their split screens lately, I feel. Another page? Huh. Okay. Hopefully, yeah. Oh? You better be careful there, Audrey. Huh. Fucking bronze tier. Yep. We only know of a few. Yeah. These are not for the faint of heart. Damn. That's crazy. I mean, she seems pretty high up in the world. Something tells me he wasn't wanting to actually give the info. But he'll take it, okay. Yeah. Yeah, just money. Nothing special about that, definitely. 100. Wow. Secret Order, Demoness Sect, Moses Ascetic Order. Huh. Mystery Prior for the Ascetic Order. Huh. Knowledge itself, the Hidden Sage. Huh. Yeah, but the pursuit of knowledge. Oh? They manifested a god. Rose School of Thought, Numinous Esbuck. Okay. Both from Southern Continent. Aurora, Elemental Dawn. Lots of names here. Huh. Interesting little moment of exposition. Curious to see how that comes back. Presumably it'll be in the form of that one specific group. Too many names for me to get it right immediately after. Hmm. Oh? Yeah, rather early. Yeah, they don't know his job. So he hasn't been at all truthful about his job. Yeah, so he's really hiding what he's up to. They don't even think he's working security, I guess. Huh. Yeah, hover, okay. Huh. What do the mandated punishers have to do with the Nighthawks right now? God. Things are rather mundane so far, other than, the one expository moment. Hauntings that target specific worshippers. Okay, they're okay. Yeah, nope, just one guy. Huh. Curious. Wonder where those could be from. Yep. You better be careful, though. Trying to poach him. Hmm. Yeah, huh. Oh, Leonard. Oh, looking for Neil. Really? Isn't he civilian staff, though? Oh my god. Always for the money. Okay, Neil's coming with us on a mission. Oh? Okay. The sun emblem again. Okay, fair. True, it does have some kind of impact like that. You're laying on a bit thick there, Klein. Wow, okay, okay. They're trusting him. They're trusting him. He has done good work so far, I suppose. I wonder how Leonard feels about that. He's always been keeping an eye on Klein, after all. Oh, more secret information on, well, secret organization info. Oh, something from Klein. We're gonna have to go back and read that. Hmm. Okay, so Leonard's the one carrying it. Oh my god. Always thinking it's about him. My guy is dealing with being at the center of a whole fucking plot. Okay. Huh. Gate. Okay, a sergeant. Part of the mandated punishers or just a officer? Oh boy, he's even awkward. Okay, people know about him. Unless they need to use the emblem. Oh boy, they're playing it up to what people expect. Yep. All right, they get what they're doing. They know how to play a crowd, or at least Leonard does. What are we gonna run into here, and how are we gonna deal with it? All right, we got some, at least a few shadows here, presumably. Not Kenley. Oh boy, getting out of hand. Did it just possess that guy? Oh no, he's been possessed. What the? What the? Yeah. Huh. Yeah, so good thing they brought the emblem. God, this is goofy. Ooh. That, huh. That seemed like a bit more formidable of a spirit. And it just let him go? Oh my god, pinning it on fucking Klein. Gedley's not saying anything back there. Oh my god, they really are fucking playing it up. God. As long as they think it worked, that's all that matters. God, that is goofy. I'm keeping an eye out for the smokestacks to see if any of them are red. Oh? What's this? Oh, Magose. Another fateful encounter with her. Oh, and have her again. Once again, he shows up. Huh. My lord give you his blessing. Curious. I wonder who she could be worshipping. Oh. Okay, yeah, fair. Okay, yeah, they're covering their tracks well. Nope, there's much more to it than that. They're really giving us a lot of time with Haver. I wonder what that means for him. Yeah. Okay. Hmm. Celeste? Oh, he had a wife. Okay. Hmm. That is the way of things, unfortunately. Yeah. Yeah, I suppose. I suppose. Huh. Yeah, we're learning more about these people around us. Oh, that that was a fucking mood shift. Yep. It's almost as if it's someone not malevolent controlling them. I have a feeling he's either going to find out something extra that. Ooh. Yeah, yeah, no, that's fair. In that case, he can realistically be a little more comfortable if he draws attention again. Oh. Unless. Inverted Pyramid of the Southern Continent. Ooh. The Pale Disaster alongside the Primordial Demoness. We're getting some lore here. Huh. Yeah. Maybe. Yes. Very much so. Now he gets to look into the emblem. My boy's scheming. Yeah, curious. Connected to death, huh? All right. How's this gonna go? And is he gonna draw any attention? The embodiment of order. God of deeds, guardian of businesses. Huh. Oh, she notices something? Ooh. Where are those footprints? They didn't look human. Trying to upgrade his charms, yeah. Hopefully this doesn't destroy the emblem or some shit. He's honestly playing pretty risky here. Is Leonard gonna take note? Huh. Yeah, that's a curious look from Leonard. Did he notice something else? He had some kind of shadow thing going on, so. Oh yeah, there's some kind of monster in the water. Those footprints were indeed suspicious. But what is this about? Probably this is going to be an opportunity to show off the charms he's made through this ritual, but what is this about? Oh boy, that guy's fucking dead. Is this just like a random Beyonder incident, or Jesus Christ? Whoa. What is this thing? Ooh. Okay, vaguely humanoid. Probably. Where did this thing come from? It seemed like it walked into the water, but where did it come from there? All right, we get to see Leonard handle some shit. Okay, at least sequence 8. Okay. All right, passing off. Good. Yeah, let Kenley get out of here. He's easily the least experienced. Funny to say, given that he's been around longer, but yeah. Holy shit. Yeah. Getting Haver here would be good. Jesus. What is this thing tied to? Uh-oh. Don't tell me we lose Neil here. Don't fucking do that to me. Cool. I love the way that they do fights, though. Especially with the Midnight Poet stuff. It's real fucking cool. This thing is fucking powerful, though. Ooh? New kind of power to show off. I love the, like, look of the Midnight Poet stuff. I'm assuming that, like, empowered that or something. I love the camera shots. The way they follow characters and stuff is really good. Yeah, no, he's needing help for this. He's not going to be able to do this alone, I don't think. There we go. There we go. Klein helping out. Pinning it down at least for a moment. Not well enough, though, it would seem. Uh-oh. No longer anchored down. Uh-oh. Oh, no. Oh, man. Klein. Okay, he seems largely fine. Doesn't mean I'm not worried, though. He's too old for this shit. Oh? Oh, that's Haver. That's Haver. Oh, fuck, that's Haver. No reason for him to have a moment of lucidity when looking at Neil. Yeah, fuck. What happened to him? He was following Magose, so presumably something there, but also I think he was a sailor path, so the aquatic vibe makes sense. What? Holy shit. What? Yeah. Okay. If they can put him to sleep. Yep. Yeah, his flask. God damn it. It felt like they were setting up flags for him. I didn't expect it to be that sudden, though. Ooh, the music. Oh, and then seeing Neil at the end. Holy shit. Hmm. That confirms it. The last of your friends are gone, Neil. Yeah. Yeah. What happened to him? They were talking together just earlier today. Ooh. Yeah. If he feels capable of doing so, I understand. We should let him do it. The fallen flag also just imagery, geez. Hmm. We didn't know him long. We didn't know him long, but still fucking hurts because of what it does to Neil. Yeah. And there goes the flag. Was it Magose who did that? Is she more powerful than we thought? Yeah. Oh, the blood mixing with the alcohol. That's poignant. With that cut. The bloodstained hand still. Yeah. This is his home? Yeah. They're all gone at this point. Ever looks exactly the same. Yeah, that is the question. That is what we need to ask. Oh? Recognize something? I'm loving the diegetic piano here with the non-diegetic music. He's collected all of these mementos of all these people. He's the last of them. He's outlived all of his friends, and in a way, like he said, that's somewhat of a miracle, but doesn't feel like it. Nothing was unusual then. He was investigating potential Beyonder issues. Yeah, yeah. It's a person losing control. Yeah. Yeah. Most of them do, not all. There isn't no hope. I could exploit the gods. I wouldn't call that being humble, my guy. Maybe, but that's dangerous. Okay. Has he gotten approval from the church to do so? Huh. Oh, hey, they added the translator and stuff to the credits. Cool. Nice to give a, a little bit of respect to them. Curious. Okay. Oh. Yeah, this was curious. This was curious. For most of the episode, it really wasn't anything too crazy. It really was just a moment of exposition and building towards the tragedy of this episode. While, of course, hinting towards future stuff. Huh. But yeah. I feel like, though, in the grand scheme of things, there isn't a ton that happens in this episode. Like, we don't progress a ton. I feel like it was important. I feel like what happened here is good to reestablish the stakes, reestablish what we're dealing with, what both existentially and more concretely the dangers we're up against are. And at the same time, serving to sort of push Klein forward. At the same time, also, though, really, this was an episode about Neil. An episode showing the sort of quiet tragedy of him. But there's also a tragedy that isn't unrealistic. It isn't unknown to us as real people. Of course, I am not living in a position where I can speak to that experience, but it is something very tangible. This idea, this fear of outliving everyone you love and care about. Of course, in the case of Neil, he, largely speaking, can be jovial and happy and get along with people and have good relationships with people younger than him. But that doesn't change the fact that those he was truly closest to, those he considered family, those he considered truly loved ones rather than just like associates or coworkers or friends, but like those close best friends and family and stuff like that, those now are all gone. And there is a tragedy there, even if there is a comfort in the fact that he has been able to live as long as he has without succumbing to the various other existential threats that, as a Beyonder, he has inevitably dealt with. There is still a tragedy there. It's a weight that he has to carry, and it seems he carries it well, or at least as well as he can, or at the very least hides it. It's interesting to see, though. I feel like it's very valuable for his character, for us to understand that about him. He's a friendly old man who has lost just about everything he ever knew and cared about. But stepping back from Neil specifically, I don't think I really need to take notes before making the analysis on this episode, because like I said earlier, though there is some important stuff here, there's some good foundation of character and some pointing to some lore bits. The core of what this episode is doing is not really anything too complicated. Really, what this episode is doing is setting up that Azek is helping Klein out. They are both searching for answers now, and inevitably, by using the powers that he has, Azek draws attention. He is getting the attention of the Nighthawks and the Mandated Punishers, and because of that, in this episode, we're mostly dealing with Klein tiptoeing around that issue while also pursuing a trump card that he can have, which I'll touch on that in a moment, but focusing on just sort of the other aspect of the episode first. That ends up being essentially the content of the logistics of the episode. That's the literal happenings until the end, where the emotional element more so comes from the fact that we are setting up Neil's past, his relationship with Haver, and just in general Neil's life and what he's lost at this point, also that we can take away that last piece at the end. And as I mentioned, though I didn't say it in the exact moment really, these moments of mundane happiness between Neil and Haver, though I didn't parse the connection to Neil immediately until it was told to us, it did to me start to set off some alarm bells that we were having these several moments with Haver and sort of humanizing him more to us, that is definitely some potential death flags. I didn't speak it aloud in the moment because I don't want to just assume that everyone's gonna die. I try to have hope for the characters sometimes, and also I feel like often just assuming that a character is gonna die often can sort of take away from moments like this, but it did sort of poke into my brain that those were some death flags, and it proved true. So I won't say that his transformation and death really comes as too much of a shock or really something that saddens me too much, because prior to this episode we had one scene with him that he really wasn't the focus of, and then in this episode I had it in the back of my mind that this might be setting up for a tragedy, but that doesn't change its impact for Neil, and Neil is a character we have gotten to know better. Though it might sound a bit pretentious to describe this way, I feel like it is a good lesson to be taken when wanting to truly interface with a story and feel what it wants you to feel. If you feel that you don't have the emotional connection to a character who is dying or has died or something like that, but they want you to feel sad about it, if you're wanting to really interface with the story about that, I try to look for characters in the scene that I do care about that are saddened by this, are impacted by a moment like this, and in this moment that is old Neil. I largely am not sad that Haver died, I am more so sad that Neil is upset by that. But like I said, that's just sort of an aside of sort of how I look at things sometimes with stories. It helps me sometimes to, even if a emotional note isn't perfect, step into it a bit more than I otherwise would. And I'd suggest other people try it if they aren't already, because it's nice to let a story affect you, even if it isn't perfect. But hopping off of my little soapbox there, the real important, logistical detail about this entire event with Haver is inevitably the question Klein is asking at the end of the episode. Why did he transform? He seemed fine prior to now. Prior to him walking off to follow Magose, which I still don't know if I'm saying the name right, he seemed fine. He was jovial, he was happy, he was shooting the shit with Neil a little bit, and then he walks off for this mission that he expects not to be anything crazy, only to then reappear having lost control. What caused that? My guess is a handful of things. One could be that Magose is more powerful and more malicious than we think, likely a Beyonder of some power, or Lenevis or some other Aurora Order person, perhaps Hood if he is still alive, have been trying to effectively protect Magose, given that she is essentially the harbinger of Doomsday, and they intercepted Haver and attempted to, kill him or whatever, leading to him losing control. Or, alternatively, a possibility is Haver confronted Magose in some way, or used spirit vision to observe her, witnessed the thing that she is harboring, the creature, the monster, the potential like herald or avatar of the true creator, and it led to him going mad and losing control, perhaps. We've had it emphasized both last episode and in a previous episode, the danger of witnessing the true creator, of gods in general, but specifically to the true creator as well. So I feel like there is actually very strongly a potential that that is what happened, but ultimately the exact order of events, how they happened, why they happened, is really secondary to what this means, which is it tips off Klein and the other members of the Nighthawks that something is going on. They inevitably will be able to draw things back, probably work with the mandated Punishers to understand, okay, Haver lost control after he went to continue his mission following Magose, who we had reason to think might be indirectly / tangentially connected to potential Beyonder issues. We should investigate that. They go into that, they discover something more there, continues on into learning more about the Aurora Order's plans, Doomsday, that kind of thing. That would be a fairly straightforward way of doing things, and is entirely possible because of this. But beyond that, beyond what Haver's role in the story sort of achieves, I'd say the key other element of this episode, other than the strong chunk of lore that I really need to go back and take notes on early in the episode with the Tarot Club, which, to touch on for a moment, really just sort of solidified some details about secret organizations and some history as well as touch on some stuff from the southern continent, which we really haven't heard about prior to now, with the most pertinent detail from all of that being that in all likelihood, we have at least a hint towards the origin of Azek, that he is likely in some way tied to death more explicitly. So though that may not necessarily lead to anything super specific right now, it is something to know about potentially the history of Azek. And what I find interesting about that is if he is in some way tied to that event, and more specifically that hidden organization, a key detail there was that that organization and the Demoness sect, or at the very least the Primordial Demoness, those were connected, meaning, funnily enough, our two sort of floating characters of Trissy and Azek may actually end up more connected than we thought. It is very possible that in pursuing information of Azek's origin, that leads us to the Demoness sect, and therefore to Trissy. That, once again, though, is sort of separate, I feel, at least for now, from the current plot related to the Aurora Order and Doomsday and stuff, but I have a feeling that's something that could come up later. But to get to what I was actually originally wanting to touch on more, the other main element of this episode, as I would call it, is Klein and what he's doing in this episode and plans to do into next episode. We start this episode with him trying to decide what to do next. He is questioning how best he can move forward. After the revelation of the 2 red smokestacks from last episode, Klein has sort of hit a bit of a dead end, it would seem. He still doesn't have enough power to necessarily do everything he wants, fight back against what he's facing, and protect himself in case he gets into a dangerous position. So, in this episode, rather than immediately just going for the clown potion, he decides to spread out his options a little bit. He decides to use the current circumstance that Azek is inevitably causing to manipulate things so he can create some sun charms. Using the knowledge he gained from a couple episodes back related to the emblem, he, in this episode, is able to create 2 sun charms, it would seem. The exact function of, we will have to see, because we've seen what the warped charm can do, but we don't necessarily know the exact details of what his new trump cards are capable of. But he does consider them as such. So he now has those in his back pocket as sort of a secret last measure. I am very curious to see what the fallout of that will be, because he very much is going behind the backs of the Nighthawks to construct these. So if he is ever in a position where he is with the Nighthawks on a mission that gets dire and he needs to use one, I imagine that some people are going to have some questions for him. Who knows if that will be a bridge that ever gets crossed. He might save them for just scenarios where he isn't around other Nighthawks, but who knows? We shall see in the future. But ultimately, he now has these, and it is just a sort of reflection of his current goal being gathering power. That is his current goal. And that gets exemplified at the end of this episode. Due to the events of this episode with Haver losing control and such, and witnessing the tragedy of Neil as a person, it leads him further into believing he must become more powerful. He must learn ways to avoid losing control, ways to protect the people he cares about. And that leads him to thinking, oh, people who are higher sequence likely are at less risk, which, as I mentioned just offhandedly in that moment, is a dangerous thought. It's very dangerous to think, oh, losing control is a very dangerous and tragic thing. That is more dangerous the more powerful the person who lost control is. Maybe if I get more powerful, maybe if I make it even riskier if I lose control, maybe I'm less likely to lose control. There might be merit to that, but it's a dangerous thought. To rush into power in an attempt to avoid that power consuming you doesn't really work in my brain necessarily. It might, but it is concerning to me. But ultimately, what it does for Klein is it points him to, even though he has his trump cards, he needs to save those for the right moment. He needs to generally become more powerful now, though. Meaning, he's ready for the clown potion. We haven't had any word in this episode if the church has approved of that as an option, but it seems like he is going to pursue it regardless. Whether that is him once again going behind the backs of the Nighthawks to elevate himself to Sequence 8, or if it means he's just going to try to push the issue, or potentially it's a case of just they didn't bother telling us that it's been approved yet, and that will happen next episode early on, or they'll just sort of go past it without issue. Might be a little bit of cut content that, like, we can just assume is the case. Always, that's a thought I sort of have to have in mind with adaptations like this. There's always stuff on the cutting room floor, and little details like that, though it can be a little confusing, sometimes can be safe to assume. But we'll see if that's a thing that we need to worry about next time. Ultimately, though, I think I've sort of touched on everything I want to for this episode. I'm going to take my notes now, make sure that I have everything sort of set for going into the next few episodes. But with that, feel free to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, leave a comment on your thoughts, and very special thanks to all of my channel members, being Desaize and Pokelove101 at the normal tier, and Kano Nano at the cool person tier. Really appreciate your support, as always, and I hope you all have a great day. Bye-bye!